It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. This is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavill, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, or at least that is what he keeps telling us. You know, new year. Usually they say new tricks, but maybe I don't know, man. Let me just ask Professor Bishop, how you doing today?
Doing well. We had some action last night in the SWAC and over there in the Big South. A lot of stuff to talk about. So looking forward to getting into it. We got some pretty big matchups coming up this weekend.
No doubt about it. Off the court or field, we have some news with our buddies over there in the OVC turns to Tennessee State. So we might get a chance to talk a little bit about that. But I'm going to say welcome to episode 227 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA, as we say. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, along with my co-host, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studio and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper. I think he's a Hall of Famer now, 3-4 times early. He just got into the Texas Black Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. So that's another big kudos, and this is a big one. He's going in with some big boys in that group.
Yeah, congratulations, Ralph. No doubt.
No doubt about it, but it should be saying he is a big boy himself. So, you know, all the folks around here have always told him that. It's good to see that he is getting his flowers, his roses, while he's still able to tell us some jokes and talk about us the other side. I got a chance to break bread with him the other day, and it was good. I always learn a couple of things from the old sage. He told me a couple of more tricks of the trade. So I might be dangerous today, Charles. I might be dangerous today.
Awesome.
We're in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, what news do you want to start out with today? News of the day, HBCU news of the day, I should say. What you got?
Let's start out with a little shout out. Now, I know today is January 6th, but I want to shout out all my good friends from Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. They had their founders yesterday, January 5th, so definitely want to shout out all those good men at Kappa Alpha Psi, my partner Neely over at the pregame show, and all the listeners who are members of that great fraternity. So definitely want to send shouts out to those good men. We'll start off today. Marquise Bell, he gets an invite to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. So shout out to Marquise Bell for getting that Combine invite. He was a do-it-all safety for Florida A&M Rattlers this past season, for the past couple seasons, 79 tackles, fourth most in the SWAC, 6.5 for loss, 4 forced fumbles, 2 sacks and an interception. So he is definitely worthy of a Combine invite. Of course, he was Week 3 SWAC Defensive Player of the Week. He was also the Senior Bowl Defensive Player of the Week after a 15 tackle, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble performance against the University of South Florida. So kudos to Marquise Bell.
Good job. I like it. Marquise Bell. Nice. I'm going to go old school in. You did modern, current. I'm going to go old school. John Taylor inducted into the 49ers Hall of Fame from HBCUGameDay.com. John Taylor, as you know, record-setting years at Delaware State, led the NFL stardom Super Bowl champion, and induction into the Black College Football Hall of Fame has added another prestigious honor to his list. Taylor and fellow former San Francisco 49ers great Patrick Willis, linebacker, was recently inducted into the 49ers Hall of Fame during the ceremony that included the addition of their names to the team's Ring of Honor at Levi Stadium. Taylor was an electric wide receiver with some of the most memorable plays in franchise history, including
Yeah, we'll pick up with Dr. DeVille as he comes back in. Looks like he might be a little bit frozen there, but we'll keep up with some news around HBC Universe. Shout out to Coach Tamika Reed. We'll get into a little bit of talking about the action around the Southwestern Athletic Conference last night. But Coach Tamika Reed with Jackson State Lady Tigers, she picks up a milestone win, victory number 100 for Coach Tamika Reed. So shout out to Coach Reed in getting victory number 100. As we kind of continue to take a look around, and of course, HBCU Game Day, great a source of news for all of us here in terms of getting news out. But Morgan State, their AD, I don't think we talked about this on Tuesday, but Morgan State's AD, he leaves to take a job at the University of Virginia. So Morgan State is now in the market for a new athletic director. Of course, Dr. Ed Scott was doing some great things over there at Morgan State, but he leaves to take a position over there at the University of Virginia. So that's a couple of things that we got going on in HBCU news. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back here on Dr. DeVille's Inside of HBCU Sports Lab with Dr.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
And welcome back into Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab as we wait to get Dr. Ville back in. He's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but until then, let's take a look at the SWAC Women's Basketball Weekly Honors for the week of January 5th. The SWAC has tabbed Alabama A&M's Dariana Lewis and Florida A&M's Malia Bell as the SWAC Women's Basketball Weekly Honors for their outstanding performances during the opening week of conference play. Let's take a look at Dariana Lewis. She was the player of the week. She delivered an impressive double-double performance against UAPB to start league play. She scored 26 points while grabbing 14 rebounds, along with 3 steals and a block as Alabama A&M defeated UAPB 58-48. Impressive victory over an upstart UAPB team. And then the impact player of the week was Malia Bell. She was a key contributor for Florida A&M's first win of the season. She scored the game-winning basket during the closing seconds of the Rattlers game against Bethune-Cookman. She contributed a total of 10 points to go along with 6 rebounds and a steal. let's take a look at the men's weekly honors here as we pull that up real quick. And the men's weekly honors for the week of January 5th. Let's take a look at Kenny Strawbridge from Alabama State and Kevin Davis of Bethune-Cookman. Strawbridge, he was the player of the week for Alabama State, getting their first road win in January 21 with a career high 27 points against Mississippi Valley State. The redshirt sophomore finished the night shooting a blistering 68% from the field, 11 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 6 from beyond the arc for the Hornets. He also finished with 4 rebounds and 3 steals. Impact player of the week was Davis. He starred in the Wildcats' victory over Florida A&M to open SWAC play as he notched a double-double featuring 26 points and 13 rebounds to go along with 2 blocks and 3 steals. 11 of 17 from the floor, including a 3-pointer. So those were your players of the week over there in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And of course, we're going to get into a little bit of conference play, talking a little bit about what's going to go on this weekend. And we got some very interesting matchups. Of course, we're going to preview those games as well as talk about the games that happened last night. I mentioned earlier, Coach Tamika Reed, she got her 100th win of the season over Alcorn last night. I'm sorry, her 100th career victory. So that was huge. But we take a look at some of the games coming up this weekend. Please mark them on your calendars. Saturday, January 8th, it will be Grambling State visiting Bethune-Cookman. Southern will be at Florida A&M. Alcorn and Alabama A&M, they will get it on this weekend. And then you got Jackson State at Alabama State. Looks like Doc is coming back in the dark.
Yeah, I'm in, but they had a transformer blue.
Okay.
So they were flickering back and out. So I'm gonna do the show. Y'all gonna have to bear with us. I don't know how long we're gonna have lights, but I can do the show. We're gonna show you how we do it real time. So we'll be able to get in there. And so let's get into some of the games here. I know we can get in there, but I did want to give this update before we get into the game. So we'll take a little break there. But did you talk about the news with Tennessee State and OV State, Murray State? Looks like the board is going to vote. The board is going to vote tomorrow. And the reason I bring it up, because obviously Tennessee State, HBCU in the conference, and it's been churning. As we talk about conference churning, and Murray State was rumored before that they were going to come out, and it died down. But, you know, if you look in the back circles, I always tell you that it's the board that makes the decision. So the next board meeting that they had, they just decided not to do an emergency board meeting, but their next board meeting was in January. And I was like, that's when you'll get the message that they're gone, because where there's smoke, there's oftentimes fire. And there was enough evidence that they were making a move in terms of both sides of them looking like they're going to go to the Missouri Valley Conference, a better basketball conference in their framework in terms of multiple bids and things of that nature. So now, if there's some talk that maybe the football team will go to the Atlantic Sun, makes sense with the Atlantic Sun partnerships. A lot of the teams they have played and created rivals with Jacksonville State, Austin Peay, maybe going over there. That would also give them, you know, the 16 they were looking for since Jacksonville State left. You know, they're looking for where they're going to get their momentum. So maybe that's where they house football while their other sports go to the Missouri Valley. So it'll be interesting to see, or will they go into the Missouri Valley Football League up there, which is separate in terms of the management part of it, not part of necessarily the Missouri Valley Basketball Conference when we think about in all other sports. But all this comes down is like, you know, what does this mean for Tennessee State?
Yeah.
They have been the good stewards in fighting the good fight in a lot of ways, but what does that mean for them?
And I guess that's the $1 million question that I wanted to ask, Doc, in terms of when you see conference members leaving and jumping to various conferences, things of that nature, and you've always said that another conference has to want you. What sort of, you know, position does that leave Tennessee State being the good stewards of the OVC that they have been? What position does that leave them in?
That's the change. That's the change. So the thing that you have there is the trouble when you talk about from that framework is they may not have a lot of choices now. That's one of the reasons you see schools moving so fast. because they don't want to be the last man standing oftentimes. And so that's one of the things that you want to talk about when you look at it in that framework. So I don't know, there's the natural connection that some people would have, you think, with the SWAC. But the SWAC is at 12 teams. Do you just expand to 113? How does that work? Do you go to 14? Where's the 14th school coming to? What does that look like? Do the SWAC presidents and chancellors, unlike the fans, they think it's a natural fit? Do you understand that maybe they're not of the same mindset and say, do we want to extend where we extend the travel even more?
Especially and cut another piece of the pie.
And cut another piece of the pie. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where does that come from when you think about it? So that's the challenge they have, is when that door was open, you decided not to go through it. Have you maybe cost yourself? You look at maybe the Big South, they're looking like they might lose somebody. Would that be open? But what does that do to your travel? In Big South, supposedly one of the reasons you had A&T go in there is because the travel is reduced. Are they going to be supporting the fact, yeah, they like the idea of maybe getting another HBCU in their framework, but are they prepared to make that type of travel? And does somebody come along with Tennessee State to go to the Big South? So you have a lot of questions. And then obviously, they're going to want to fight in terms of the commissioners going to want to fight to keep that conference alive, and the schools are going to do that. So does it turn in more into a basketball conference? They have 2 years to figure this out. Is another thing that people need to understand, is that the NCAA has a guideline that gives you 2 years once you get under 6 to allow you to get back to 6 before they take the automatic bid. So there's a little time in that, but the problem is it needs to be a Division I school that you bring in, because if you bring a Division II school in, remember there's a 4-year period for them to come up to Division I. So even though your conference, and we see this in the Southland, even though your conference may have a total of 6 football members, for the automatic bid, there has to be 6 football members that are at Division I status, meaning they have completed the transition, that they all have to have. They can't be saying that we're going to go to Division I and we in the Division I conference, and the plan is for us to get Division I status. They have to have it. So if you don't have it, that's part of it too. So those are the things that I think are interesting when you talk about from that framework that concern a lot of people from that perspective.
I know fans would ask, or and you mentioned it, that fans would want to see, or do you think they would want to see the Tennessee market come into the SWAC?
I think most of the fans would love Tennessee State for football. I mean, the history, as you talk about, is without question. Some people may question some of the modern framework of Tennessee State. Have they lost some of that luster? But, they would resonate in terms of the band with most fans in terms of that, in terms of their legacy. Obviously, there's some question of not having baseball. SWAC is a big baseball league.
SWAC is a big baseball league, yeah.
You bring in FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, no, they don't have women's soccer. Okay, you can look at that. But they have baseball, core sport, and they're good at baseball. Tennessee State doesn't have baseball. What does that do? And the biggest question is, if you're the chancellors and the presidents that you got to, really, this is going to be the baseline, is what do they do to increase the pie big enough so when you split it to the 13th person at least, that it doesn't reduce what they're currently taking home now. So where does that revenue come from? You're not like the big boys where if you bring in a UT, Oklahoma, the television people will come back and say, hey, let's redo this deal. You got more revenue, right? That justifies the move. You still got 4 years on the television contract you got with ESPN, 3 to 4 years. Is Tennessee enough to increase that package even bigger than what you're expecting to get having FAMU and Bethune-Cookman? Those are the type of questions that you really want to talk about.
Is Tennessee more in a geographic footprint of the SWAC or the MEAC?
It's certainly closer to the SWAC.
Okay.
When you go over there in terms of it, you get up to the northern MEAC schools, which are the majority of them now, they're outside of that footprint. It becomes a pretty long travel for those teams. So it's not really in that footprint. So if the closest one that would make some sense to some degree would be the SWAC, without a doubt. So you might argue, like I said, you might argue Big South to some degree, but that's what I think there. So let's take a quick break, and we'll get back in there. See if we can find a way to get some a little light, so you won't just hear my voice and think you're talking to the mad,
the mad
Dean.
Scientist. Yeah,
the mad scientist. We'll see if we maybe can get a little flashlight on the face to give you some of this fro look, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the women basketball games, mainly of the SWAC. They postponed the Savannah State and Tuskegee game that we teased out for so many people. So can't give you an update there. They postponed that. Again, COVID-19 is for real. But let's stick with it. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Sure thing.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is on assignment, so I didn't want to make sure that Charles Bishop, Professor Bishop, is out here by himself. So there literally was a transformer that blew out here in Greater Houston on the way home. So I have no power. So we're making do what it does in terms of still making sure that you get the rest of the show. But I did want to get into this a little bit. You know, we have the basketball games from the women's games. I wanted to get into those scores. Let's break it down when we talk about what took place. Some of the scores that stood out in terms of those matchups, as you would have it. Charles, give me those scores on the women's side there so we can break down and see what we want to get into there.
Yeah, on the women's side, Southern was big over Prairie View last night, 89-52. Jackson State topped Alcorn 75-49. Texas Southern, they bested Grambling 73-66. Alabama A&M over Mississippi Valley 65-56. And Alabama State rounded out last night's action with a 14-point win over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 54-40.
Which one stood out to you the biggest?
I think the biggest, of course, stands out is Southern and Prairie View. I completely didn't see that happening. Blow out by more than 30 points there. That kind of took me by surprise. But I think on a smaller scale, it's UAPB starting out on 2. That's like the one that really kind of stood out for me. Alabama State, Alabama A&M, they go 2-0 to start conference play. But just a bad night shooting for UAPB. I think they had 4 starters that were not 4 starters, but they had 4 players with significant minutes that were completely over last night. When you take a look at that, so just not getting it done, not putting the ball in the hoop. Just a bad night of basketball for UAPB. But Alabama State and Alabama A&M starting off conference play 2-0. Jackson State invading this weekend. It's going to be a good one in terms of the defending SWAC champions visiting Montgomery and also visiting Huntsville.
Yeah, before we move forward and get into some of those big matchups, because you're right, get into the second week of play, and we get back to our traditional Saturday, Monday matchup. And as you talk about that, MEAC kicks off in terms of their Saturday, Monday type matchup. So it's going to be interesting because, like anything, they're debuting there. But as you talk about Alabama A&M, getting off to a good start. It's a good game against Pine Bluff there, but they pulled it out and got it done there. But you also have a big win by Jackson State. They made a statement that they plan to hold on to that crown. They were against their rival. Yes, Alcorn still second-year coach, maybe still trying to figure it out in terms of what they want to do with their rosters. But to make that kind of statement, open it up, I think was also a good statement by Jackson State in terms of what they were able to do on the women's side particularly. So,
I take my hat off. And again, it's the way Jackson State goes about doing it. They're going to beat you up on the boards. Misha Williams, again, another huge performance last night, 19-8. But the Jackson State out-rebounded Alcorn 38-25, if I'm not mistaken, on the boards. And it's getting those second chance points. I think you see the division between the haves and the have-nots in terms of on the women's side of the ball is those teams that can rebound and create those second chance points. They're the ones that are really, really tough. When you take a look at Dariana Lewis, she's a double-double machine for Alabama A&M. Shamai Ward for Alabama State, double-double machine as well, along with Misha Williams Holiday. So those are, those big three there. But now I take a look at a team like Southern. That gets that balance scoring all up and down the roster. They're going to be a dangerous team to kind of keep your eye on with regards to them. And Texas Southern, they got back on the winning side of the ledger last night, and they did it without Nia Mitchell.
Yeah, it looks like Grambling has fallen on hard times. We'll get to see if they get the rebound. Can they kind of bounce back? They started 0-2 in that hole along with Pine Bluff you talk about. But those are two teams that maybe you thought could have got one of the games in the weekend, particularly when you talk about both of these teams starting off 0-2 being at home. So now they got to go find a way to rebound on the road. And we know the road in the SWAC, really any conference is tough, but particularly as we know in the SWAC. So that's something that also stands out to me. Didn't have the road games as we talk about in the Tennessee State. We talked about how they started on a hot streak, but they're supposed to be playing tonight. We'll see if they'll get that game in there. And then they get into some of the normal action as they are in OVC. They're hot. They started out 2-0 in conference play, and they're looking for the first time to start out 3-0 since the last time they won a championship in OVC. So it's fascinating to see what they're going to do there. Obviously, the A&T, they had games canceled because of COVID. They've struggled a little bit, lost their first game in the Big South. A little better on the men's side, so we'll get into that a little more. But before we do that, I just want to say a little more, anything else that you're talking about in terms of the matchups. Let's go forward to some of those matchups you're looking for this weekend. Give me your top 2 matchups this weekend and why.
Top 2 matchups this weekend.
You can make it 3.
It's definitely going to be Jackson State at Alabama State, Jackson State at Alabama A&M. You know, you're doing the Bama swing this weekend, so you get the heavyweights. They come full force this weekend, and we're going to see. If you remember last year, Alabama State was able to peg that road loss on Jackson State to start off conference play. So both of those teams and get up for Jackson State, and we know how hostile an atmosphere it can be with Alabama A&M. We'll see, what sort of dynamic that is with the students not being there this weekend. But that's going to be a tough road trip. And then, Doc, with COVID playing rearing its ugly head, getting these road wins are going to be so huge. So those were some of the things that I really kind of kept an eye on with regards to these teams winning on the road. It almost gives you just that quick leg up.
I would say winning any game right now, because you just don't know what hits you. But you're right. Winning road games are always significant. COVID is going to take it up a level. But I would say this: getting any win right now, you just never know where things out of your control, if you would allow me to use that. I guess there is to some degree in your control, because you can isolate yourself a little bit in terms of trying to make it more challenging for you to get COVID. But it is what it is. It's a real thing. So to your point is there, but Alabama State quietly before we go back is, they won both of their games. So they continue to do what they do, right? So I really like this because a little payback matchup. Jackson State certainly want to get to it in terms of getting that revenge on the road. But then you got Alabama State that says, hey, we think we might should have a championship next year, and they couldn't get the regular season or the tournament. So I think that's going to be fascinating when you talk about that, right?
Yeah. And then UAPB, like I said, I thought that was going to be my sleeper team. They dropped back-to-back home games, and now they have to come to the Texas two-step. We know they always play Texas Southern tough here to HB&E, but they got to get a split some type of way this weekend.
Yeah, they got to get one. They got to figure that. In fact, they probably trying to be Grudy.
Yeah,
they're gonna try to get
right.
2, but you got to find a way to win one of them, or you're in a hole that I'm not sure you can climb out of. The interesting thing, as you're trying to any other women's game that you keep your eye. FAMU's back in action this weekend, so it's always interesting to me to see some of those first FAMU Bethune-Cookman. They kicked off where they had their rivalry game, which is interesting. But now you get to actually see them in action. So this is the first time that they get to have a SWAC team. What are your thoughts in terms of those 2 matchups?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Monday night, and we know Monday nights are the weird night. So Southern at Bethune-Cookman Monday night. So we'll see, what sort of fireworks that presents. Bethune-Cookman pedigree program, and then you got Southern on the road. So I'm looking forward to that one on Monday night next week.
I'm actually interested in Southern at FAMU on Saturday. In terms of to see, will any of the rivalry that's on the football field spill over to the basketball court?
Yeah.
And that's a long storied rivalry between FAMU and Bethune. Between FAMU and Southern, similar to a good rivalry between Jackson State and FAMU in a lot of ways. But I think a little deeper than that in terms of the constant way they played each other. And now it becomes into a conference game, if you would. And so with that being said, you see we got a little light there, so I feel like I got out of that Halloween came on a weekend look. So.
Let there be light.
Yeah.
Hey.
Wow, crazy. So with that being said, though, on the serious note, when you talk about that matchup, I'm interested to see what will the fans look like. Will they kind of get lathered up? Will they get in there? Will they get a little juice, right? FAMU is not necessarily known on the basketball side as much as they're on the football side. And then you're in a conference where everybody was further away, even though some would argue that basketball may be a little bigger in the MEAC. So I'm intrigued to see how that kind of translates, particularly with this first type of matchup. And then obviously when you get into some of that Alabama State, A&M, those games that are pretty regional for them, I'm interested in that. So I want to keep my eyes.
Yeah, those games have the potential to be pretty interesting. So while we wait to get Doc back up there, but let's turn our attention over there to the men's side. Okay, there we go, Doc.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? And that's exactly where I wanted to go. What are your thoughts on the men's side?
Huge win last night. Alcorn took it to Jackson State at home. Big win. Landon Bussey gets that road win for a 1 win. Alcorn State brave team for them to go into the AAC last night and get that big win over Jackson State. Blew them out. Game was close early, but they really took control down the stretch and was able to get the win. I think the question for Jackson State comes, where do you get that scoring from beyond Javius McKinnis? Last year, you had a nice 1-2 punch with Javius McKinnis and Tristan Jarrett. Tristan Jarrett was a guy who could put the ball on the floor, who could get into the lane, who could get fouled and get to the free throw line. Who becomes that individual for Jackson State this year? Is it Gabe Watson? Is it another individual? But who can help Javius McKinnis with some of the scoring punch? Last night, offensively, they were lethargic.
Yeah, because McKinnis is a double-double machine, so you know you're at least going to get the rebounding from him. But I'm not going to talk about so much of the concerns of Jackson State. I'm going to talk about Bussey. He was the former assistant coach, got his opportunity, Alcorn, and with the Braves, and he made a statement. I think anytime you can do it against your rival. In fact, some people that thought the last coach wasn't doing that bad, but what probably did him in is the fact that he lost to the rivals, right? Three times in that last year, all of them relatively close games, except for that last one, they kind of got blown out, which probably was the final coup de grace. Now the athletic director is not even there, but Bussey, with his extension, he's found a way to show that he can win of his own. And he had a good non-conference couple of wins there. So I came in there looking to see what was going on, but to get this win is big. I also thought the Texas Southern's big win over Texas Southern. Obviously, they got the forfeit from Prairie View, but the fact that they got the big win against Texas Southern, now they've done that before, so let's not get too excited about that. But to beat them the way they did, I thought was big, because last time they snuck out of there with some people would say with a win. This time they were solid for most of that game. It got close to like 4 points second half. They stretched it back out to 10, 11 points and closed the deal. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. But on the other side, when you talk about Texas Southern, they split. But that game with Grambling to me was a little closer than what they thought. They pulled away late to make it 5-6 points. But hey, I'm not so sure about what's going on there. Alabama A&M, the Bulldogs. It looks like the Pups might have grown up.
They fully grown.
Everybody, shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy said, when they were all freshmen, y'all better take the beating and licking to out. But he was saying this is a team that has a chance to be good. Well, they got that win over Tennessee State, took the lumps on the road games, but they got in the conference play and they took the first two. Fascinating, on the road. On the road. They beat a Valley team that played pretty close, and they won a close game against Valley on the road, which is interesting. They pulled it up. Got the win against Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff split this weekend, so that's a Pine Bluff that got their first win. So I thought that was solid about Alabama A&M. Those are some of the ones that stuck out to me. What about yourself?
Yeah, big game for Alabama A&M. Talk about Jalen Johnson, 25 points and 14 rebounds in 34 minutes of action. But he had a big game, and they couldn't stop him. He was 11-19 from the floor. But like you said, Alabama A&M, those young pups, they've grown up now, and now they're ready to, put their foot to the pedal, if you will, and try to get some of these SWAC wins. Doc, I was going to ask Linnell Henry. He had a big game last night for Alcorn. Is he a Prairie View transfer that came over to Alcorn?
Yeah, I think a grad transfer.
Yeah,
transfer.
Yeah, huge game last night.
Yeah, I saw his face, and he had a weird relationship with the coaching down there. He was solid, couldn't quite get over the hill in a lot of ways. But in terms of when he played, he could do some stuff. But I think Bussey likes his activity on the offensive side of the ball, and he's made him serviceable. And he always was good when he could get lathered up and get in a rhythm. So it's fascinating to see how that works out. Prairie View was moving more to a guard-oriented style.
Sure.
They wanted somebody that was a little bit more mobile in terms of playing at the 5 position. and he didn't quite give him that style. So I think he was serviceable down there, but I think he could be just what the doctor ordered, if you would, in terms of the Braves. So great catch. I saw him there too, and I was like, might be one that we scared got away.
4 or 5 from 3-point land last night. He was a dagger last night for Jackson State.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Some of those scores coming up here. Let's get into that before we move into the next weekend type of games on Saturday. Obviously, we talk about Bethune-Cookman losing their non-conference game. I like the fact that they found a way to play their Wednesday game. Lost a close one though, 68-65. Florida International. Will be interesting to see what that. Before we move on,
and they were
Saturday
whooping
games,
Florida International. They let that one get away.
Yeah, they were beating them up. That was frustrating to kind of see that go down like that on the road. But that's the tough thing, and why I say we got to find a way to play a couple of more of those home games over the years, because it goes down like that. I did want to get into the Big South, North Carolina A&T, in terms of them getting their first win, opening win, if you would, against Presbyterian in the Big South, 65-57. Weird game in terms of how it started. Presbyterian went on a 10-0 run, and then A&T went on a 16-0 run. I've never seen anything like that, where the run switch in such a way. You know, you've seen one
college
team
basketball
get on a run. Yeah, and it takes off and it keeps going. But I thought in terms of how that went down. So intrigued about that. T pretty much controlled the game. It was a home game. They controlled it. Was tied at halftime as they let Presbyterian kind of get back in there 29-29. Defensively, they were stifling, especially in that second half where they basically shut them down. And they did just enough. The key thing that A&T, the Aggies, would tell you about is the fact that they didn't have a point guard. They didn't have the point guard. Didn't play in that game. And they still got to win. So that's a big win. Shout out to them in terms of what they get done there. They'll be back in action on Saturday. They go to Radford, which will be fascinating to see. A&T now is at 6-9. Radford is at 5-8. So that's the second matchup in the conference. It'll be fascinating to see how that looks in terms of what's taking place there. Radford is also 1-0 in terms of getting their first conference win. So fascinating to see what's going on. Since we're moving forward to Saturday, let's get in a little bit of the MEAC and see what your thoughts on some of these matchups are, what you may interest you in these in terms of Saturday matchup coming into it. You have Coppin at South Carolina State. Unfortunately, you already have the announcement of Morgan at North Carolina Central is postponed.
Wow.
Howard at Delaware State, postponed. Norfolk State at Maryland Eastern Shore, the dreaded, postponed. So opening Saturday for the MEAC, you will have one conference game. That's truly unfortunate because we're getting those matchups. I would have been interested, just so we can do it, I would have been interested in that Morgan State, North Carolina
Central. That's the one I wanted to see.
6-9 Central and that. I would have been interested in that matchup. And I guess we have to wait a little longer. We waited this long, so hey, why not? The other one, though, Howard has played some good basketball. They're 6-6 in terms of the record. 3 or 4 Division I wins. Playing Delaware State is 2-11. It would have been on the road, so it would have been interesting to see what that looks like. And obviously, Norfolk State just staying at that 9. They did so well, got those 9 wins, 6-7 Division I wins. I think it was 6 to be exact. They were at Maryland Eastern Shore, 5-6. So what would have been fascinating to me is some of the teams that you thought were going to be the top runners, they were all on the road pretty much this weekend except for Central. But you had Coppin on the road. On the road. Morgan State obviously on the road. Howard on the road and Norfolk State on the road. That would have been fascinating when you talk about that. And then credit to South Carolina State. They look like they're back in the basketball business. You know, they got several wins, so it'll be fascinating to see who gets the best of that when Coppin State is just 1-4 team coming into that matchup. So go to the SWAC. Well, let's skip over to the OVC as they get into it. Right now, Tennessee State is trailing UT Martin 49-34. That is on ESPN News, so you can chop it up once we get out of here. Got a couple minutes left, and we'll give you some SWAC before we call it a show. So that's interesting when you talk about that. Saturday, you have Southeastern Missouri State on the road to Tennessee State. So you got to at least split. It looks like they got to find a way to come back. If they came back, they got to find a way to get Southeastern Missouri. But that Southeastern Missouri comes in at 6-9. And so that's not going to be an easy matchup in itself. So Tennessee State, non-conference 5-7, respectable. A couple of wins. They had some tough wins. They lost all their HBCU matchup to Alabama A&M, but it looks like that was a good one. Norfolk State, obviously, that's a fair loss when you talk about what those teams are doing. So that's something to look at there. Let me ask you about some of these SWAC games coming up. You kind of teased us, talked about it on the women's side, but let's go into the men's side a little more of this. You got Mississippi at Prairie View. I think Prairie View is going to be able to come off COVID. It's my understanding that they should be back in action. It's good that they come off and have a home game, but they're going to have it against a tough Valley team that's showing a little life. They got a big man down in the middle that can get some buckets and plays really solid. Offensively, they could give a smaller team like Prairie View that likes to play with the guards maybe some trouble. We'll see what that looks like, especially a team that you expect to be a little rusty. As you said, Grambling at Bethune-Cookman. That's fascinating to me. Southern at FAMU, I talked about that, obviously. You talked about the Jackson State and Alabama State matchup on the women's side. Be interesting to see what's going on the men's side. Congratulations to coach out there as he has a newborn on coming.
Coach Mo Williams.
Coach Mo Williams, why he wasn't able to get the last two games. So be interesting to see when he'll be able to get back into action. Obviously, he's taking care of business as he should be. And then you have Alcorn State at Alabama A&M. All of a sudden, this becomes a fascinating match.
That's the
what
one.
we've seen this couple of weekends, right? And A&M is always a tough place to play in terms of that because they are not in their new building yet, which will be a beautiful place to play. But right now, they're in a tough place to play in that barn, if you would have it. And then you got Arkansas Pine Bluff, Texas Southern. You talked about the need on the women's side for Arkansas Pine Bluff to get the win. But also now, Texas Southern has to find a way to come out this hole a little bit. So they got to make a statement before folks look at that. And so before I let you dig into those, I'm going to let you do the flip of the games, obviously. Then on Monday, because we won't be back to Tuesday to talk about both of these matchups, if you would, and what happened yesterday. So we have a full schedule for you on Tuesday. Southern at Bethune-Cookman, Grambling at FAMU, Jackson at Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State at Texas Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Prairie View, Alcorn State at Alabama State. Interesting matchups. Any of those, what jumps off on the men's side for you?
Well, obviously, Saturday night, Alcorn at Alabama A&M. Alcorn was a big win on the road at Jackson State. The baby Bulldogs are full Bulldogs now. And so that becomes a very interesting matchup. Two upstart teams, if you will, Alcorn and Alabama A&M in Huntsville. That's going to be a good one. Jackson State, last year, they went through the regular season unscathed. So they've been scathed early now. Now they go and take this trip to Alabama on the road. So Alabama State is going to be a tough one. DJ Strawbridge, and then you have Alabama A&M on that Monday night. So that's a tough road trip for Jackson State.
You talk about, and you love talking about those Monday nights on the road.
Woo! Anything happens on Monday nights. If it's going to be an upset, it's going to be on a Monday night. The odds of Monday, but I tell you what, like I said earlier with regards to Jackson State, who's going to be that other scorer that's going to help out James McKinnis? Jonas James, is he going to be able to step up and pour in some more points so that Jackson State offense can kind of get up and going a little bit? And then Texas Southern, a little bit of herky-jerky road. They split on the road, but it wasn't Texas Southern dominance, if you will. So, do they come back this weekend and make a statement against UAPB and Mississippi Valley? So those are the things that I'm kind of looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, I want to shout out to the lab listeners that stuck with us as we got into a little bit of things out of our control. But one thing I did want to share before we got out of here, two things really. ESPN still has the basketball conference split between East and West. And I know for the standings, it's just one conference for basketball. But I'm kind of fascinated in this, hopefully how long they will stick with this, because I like seeing this East-West split. I'm just curious of how this would look if you played it out in this format. Yeah. So I'm loving being able to look at this East-West, because if you do it in this right now in the East, you have Alabama A&M sitting at 2-0, Bethune-Cookman at 1-0, Alabama State at 1-1, Jackson State at 0-1, FAMU at 0-1, Valley at 0-2 in the East, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the West, you have Southern at 2-0, Texas Southern at 1-1, Alcorn at 1-0, Arkansas Pine Bluff 1-1, Grambling at 1-1, and Prairie at 0-2, sitting in the matchup versus you had Alabama A&M and Southern at the top. Then you have your 1-0 teams with Braves and Bethune-Cookman. So it's interesting how it shapes up differently if you do split in divisions and how that plays up in a different time of format for your top 8 teams going east-west versus if you just go your traditional one setup in terms of records. So I'm intrigued to keep kind of one eye to see. Hopefully they don't update that too soon before I have to give that back. I also did want to give a shout out to CIAA since we're talking about this basketball. Announces 2022 John B. McClendon Hall of Fame class. Obviously multiple sports, but you have Andre Altus, Shaw University, Dr. Beverly Downing, Livingston College, and St. Augustine University. Gregory Goins from Bowie State. Greg Jackson, St. Paul's College, North Carolina Central. Amba Congola, North Carolina Central University. Jamie Waller, Virginia Union University, are your 2022 John B. McClendon CIAA Hall of Fame class. Any final thoughts you have on that before we give it a close to the night? Shout out to the 9 Worthy High School band seniors that received $50K scholarships to play for Langston University's band.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, final thoughts. I definitely, kudos to those individuals who are going into the CIAA Hall of Fame. Great action this upcoming weekend. Dr. Bill, keep an eye out for Bethune-Cookman. We talk about these pro coaches coming in and coaching. Reggie Theus, a lot of people don't remember Reggie Theus could ball back in the day. He's taking the reins over there. And down there with Bethune-Cookman, and they got a guy who can double with the best of them when you're talking about Kevin Davis. So Grambling, Southern, they make the trip over to Florida this weekend. And like I said, Bethune-Cookman, they let Florida International get away from them last night. They had them on the ropes. They were dead red. They were up by 15 with 8 minutes or so to go in the game, and somehow let that get away. But keep an eye out for Bethune-Cookman.
No doubt about it. Thanks for sticking in there, all those lab listeners out there. We'll do our homework these next couple of days, including the weekend and Monday, and we'll bring it hot and heavy on Tuesday to give you our latest on the basketball news. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports from Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab from a basketball perspective. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Look out, because those poll rankings are coming. They've been churning in my computer. I've been just letting a little more magic in those computers going around. I'll surprise y'all either next week or maybe the following week. It's time to let it percolate a little bit. See what y'all think about the poll rankings for basketball. You know, we do the top 5. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Again, that's DrKenyattacavil. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Roy?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Stay safe, Master.